Well, new tonight, two Portland men have been found dead after they went missing in eastern Skamania County, Washington. The family of the men reached out early Christmas after they never returned home as planned on Christmas Eve. The family said the two were searching for Sasquatch.
Two experienced hunters walked into the woods looking for Bigfoot. 3 days later, search teams found their bodies lying in the snow, 50 feet from their tent. And sitting in the corner of that tent was a 10-pound clump of something nobody has ever been able to explain. This isn't a campfire story. This happened on Christmas Eve, 2024, in one of the most Bigfoot-heavy counties in America. And what search and rescue found when they finally reached that camp has kept hunting forums and true crime communities arguing for over a year. Officially, this case is closed. Almost nobody who has read the file believes the official answer. But before we get to that tent, you need to understand something about these particular woods. Men have walked away from encounters out here before. Not everyone who meets something in that forest ends up missing. In January of 2015, a 40-year-old hunter named Brent Dawson set out alone into Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in Skamania County, Washington. Brent had hunted that stretch of wilderness for years, and like a lot of serious hunters, he ran motion-activated trail cameras on nearby trees to track animal movement before he ever raised a rifle. On January 11th, he sat down to check the footage. Most nights it was deer, sometimes elk. That night, it was something else. The video showed a large, dark shape crouched low between two tree trunks. His first thought was black bear. Bears were common in that forest, and a hunched shape in low light could easily pass for one. Then the shape moved. It rose up, onto two legs, the way a person stands. Two long arms hung from its shoulders, further than a man's arms should hang. Brent said his legs went weak just watching the playback. Whatever that was, it wasn't a bear. He packed his gear that same day and left before nightfall. Later, writing about it online, he said that if he hadn't caught that movement on camera when he didn't want to imagine what might have happened to him that night, alone, with no idea anything was out there at all. That's the account as Brent told it, and as it's circulated across hunting forums and Bigfoot communities ever since. No wildlife agency or local news outlet ever independently verified the footage, but it's one of the most repeated stories to come out of that particular forest, and it sets up exactly what happened years later, less than an hour from where Brent packed up his camp that night. Brent walked away. He's still here to tell people about it. The two men in this next story didn't stumble onto something by accident. They went looking for it on purpose. On December 22, 2024, 59-year-old Gregor Shiborgost and 37-year-old John Thomas, both from Portland, Oregon, loaded up a silver-gray pickup truck and drove into Skamania County, Washington, heading for the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. Authorities never released their names to the public. To this day, no official report has confirmed their identities, but people close to the case, including Gregor's cousin Darlene, have identified the two men, and their story has circulated widely enough that we're using those names here, with that disclaimer up front. Gregor wasn't a casual weekend camper. His friend Mark described him as a genuine wilderness survival expert, someone who could read a forest better than most people read a map, and according to Mark, Gregor already had a story of his own. One warm afternoon, years earlier, Gregor had been dozing outside his tent when an overpowering smell hit him. He opened his eyes, and there it was, a huge, hairy, upright shape, just watching him from a short distance away. They locked eyes for a moment. Gregor's gut told him instantly what he was looking at. The second he reached for his rifle, the shape turned and vanished into the trees with a speed that didn't seem possible for something that size. Mark said Gregor never stopped talking about it. He wanted Mark to go back out there with him and find it again. Mark told him it wasn't worth it. Gregor met John Thomas in July of 2024 on another hunting trip. John worked as a bank employee during the week, but outdoors was where he actually came alive. The two men hit it off immediately. Gregor taught John how to read tracks, how to call in a deer, where to aim for a clean kill. John, in turn, helped Gregor sort out his finances. An unlikely pairing that turned into a real friendship, fast. By November, they weren't just hunting buddies anymore. They were partners, chasing something bigger. That month, Gregor brought John an idea he'd clearly been sitting on for a while. He didn't want to just track Bigfoot this time. He wanted to hunt it, capture proof, show the world the legend was real. John didn't hesitate. If they actually pulled it off, the two of them would be legends themselves. So on December 22nd, they made the drive out to Skamania County and set up at a remote spot they'd marked on the map, a site known locally as Paco's Rock, deep inside the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. From there, they hiked southeast, off the main trail, into a stretch of forest almost nobody walks through. Winter is an odd time to go looking for Bigfoot, unless you know the lore. Some longtime researchers believe sightings actually spike in the colder months, when food gets scarce and the creature supposedly expands its range, sometimes coming closer to human camps than it normally would. Gregor and John were supposed to be back home by Christmas Eve. They weren't. Around 1 a.m. on Christmas Day, a family member called the Skamania County Sheriff's Office to report them overdue and missing. That call set off one of the largest search operations the county had seen in years. More than 60 volunteers mobilized within hours. Investigators pulled footage from a recently installed license plate camera and used it to track down the men's truck, parked off Oklahoma Road near the small town of Willard, Washington. From there, ground teams, search dogs, and drones pushed into the forest, while a Coast Guard helicopter out of Astoria, Oregon, flew overhead using infrared to scan the freezing tree cover. For 3 days, in snow, freezing rain, and rising creek water, that search continued. On December 28th, they found them. Roughly 50 feet from their tent, in an isolated stretch of forest southeast of the campsite, lay the bodies of Gregor Sheborgost and John Thomas. Their rifles were close by. John's weapon was still loaded. It had never been fired. Gregor's rifle had 3 spent rounds in it. Officials have released almost nothing about the physical condition of the two men. What we do know is that the tent itself was untouched. Food was still inside. Water was still inside. And in the corner of that tent sat a 10-pound clump of something raw, uncut, roughly hand-shaped, and coated in what looked like spices. Nobody who worked that scene has ever explained what it was or why it was there. The official cause of death, listed by the Skamania County Sheriff's Office, was exposure, tied to the brutal weather that week and the two men being underprepared for it. Case closed, on paper, except almost nobody who actually knew these two men is buying it. These weren't beginners caught off guard by a storm. Gregor had spent decades in these mountains. Both men had proper cold weather gear, navigation equipment, food, water, and firearms. People who knew them have pointed out that this wasn't a couple of tourists who wandered too far. And once their story hit hunting forums and true crime communities online, the theories multiplied fast. A lot of people online became convinced the cold wasn't what actually killed them. After all, these two men hadn't just gone camping. They'd gone into that forest specifically to find something that, according to legend, does not appreciate being found. And then, a few days after their bodies were recovered, things got stranger. A short clip, just over 10 seconds long, started circulating online. Whoever posted it claimed it came from a motion-activated camera set up inside the men's own tent. Nobody has ever verified that claim, and it should be treated with real skepticism. But the clip itself is unsettling. It shows Gregor and John grabbing their rifles in the middle of the night and stepping outside in a hurry. Seconds later, something enormous fills the tent opening. Covered in thick, dark hair, towering well above the flap. It pauses there, watching. Then it turns, and silently follows their trail into the dark. What happened after that, nobody can say for certain. But from that point forward, the story of these two men only has one ending. Here's the theory that's taken hold among people who've studied this case closely, and it is only a theory. Gregor, ever the careful planner, is said to have packed a heavy amount of raw meat specifically as bait, betting that the smell would draw a Bigfoot in close enough for a clear shot or a clear photo. If that 10-pound clump found in the tent really was bait, then something may have picked up the scent that night. The theory goes that whatever was out there ignored the food entirely and instead started circling the tent itself, treating the two men as the more interesting target. In pitch darkness, with no clear line of sight, neither man would have had time to aim properly. John's rifle, still loaded, still unfired, suggests he may never have gotten the chance. Gregor managed to get 3 rounds off into the dark, into what nobody knows. And then, according to this theory, both men were gone before anyone could reach them. It's worth stepping back here. Officially, none of this is confirmed. There's no forensic report describing an attack, no physical evidence released publicly beyond what we've already covered. This is a theory built by people online trying to make sense of a case that, on paper, doesn't fully add up to them. The Skamania County Sheriff's Office has stood by exposure as the cause of death, but it's hard to ignore the pattern. Brent Dawson, back in 2015, caught something watching him from the tree line and left before dark. Whatever Gregor and John encountered, if that footage is real, didn't approach during the day. It waited, it watched, and it moved only once night gave it every advantage. Skamania County isn't just any patch of forest. It's one of the most Bigfoot-associated counties in the entire country, with dozens of reported sightings on record going back decades. The area takes it seriously enough that there's an actual local ordinance, first passed in 1969, that makes harming a Sasquatch within county lines punishable by up to a year in jail or a $1,000 fine. It sounds almost like a joke, until you remember why the law was actually written: to stop overeager hunters from shooting each other in thick brush, mistaking one bearded man for something else entirely. Whatever the real explanation is, 2 men are gone. Gregor was, by every account, the kind of person who lit up a room. Funny, loud, endlessly energetic, a proud grandfather who felt more like himself in the woods than anywhere else. John had a steady job, a family who loved him, and a mentor in Gregor who'd shown him a whole new way of living. Neither of them got to come home. Whether it was the cold or something far older than either of them expected, the woods took something from a lot of people that Christmas. And maybe that's the real difference between these 2 stories. Brent Dawson saw the shape in his camera, felt his legs go weak, and chose to leave. Gregor and John saw something too, if that footage is what people claim it is, and chose to stay. Sometimes walking away is the only thing that separates a story you get to tell from one that gets told about you. So now it's your turn. If you made it this far, you're clearly not someone who scares easily. So drop a comment and let us know, do you think Gregor and John actually found what they were looking for? Do you buy the official explanation of exposure, or do you think something else was out there that night? We read every single comment on these videos, and honestly, some of the best leads we've ever gotten on future cases have come straight from people watching right now. So if you've ever had your own strange encounter in the woods, or if you know more about this case than what's been made public, tell us below. We might feature it in a future video. If this channel is the kind of thing you come back to when you want to feel that chill down your spine, do us a favor and hit subscribe, and turn on notifications while you're at it, because we're covering cases just like this one every single week, some of them even stranger than what you just watched. And if you're new here, welcome. You're now part of a community that takes this stuff seriously, that digs past the headlines, and that isn't afraid to ask the questions official reports leave out. One more thing before you go. Skamania County isn't done with us. There are other cases from those same woods we haven't told you about yet, encounters that never made national news, and we're already working on bringing you the next one. Until then, stay sharp out there, because somewhere in those trees, something might already be watching, and in the dark woods, you're never really alone. We'll see you in the next nightmare.